All right, so good afternoon, everyone. It is Monday, October 30th, and we are talking about objections and objection handling today. We're heading into the slower part of the season as far as sales season goes. Interestingly, the first week of October is one of the busiest weeks of the entire year for escrows to open. Why do you think that might be? Anyone want to give that a go? All right, here's my take on that. It's because people that need to sell by the end of the year are putting their houses on the market. These are the people that didn't sell in September, and they are ready to make some moves. So the prices are coming down, and motivated buyers are out there, and motivated sellers are out there. People that are investors, a lot of times, are looking to sell before the end of the year and get those closings off their books. So that's some of the reasons why people are doing that. People are relocating. They relocate all year long, but we find that the first part of fall, almost every year when I look at my numbers for what our group does, October is very, very busy. It's one of the busiest months we have. It's usually May and October. Not so much summer. You'd think June and July, but no, actually May and October. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're doing your marketing and planning your marketing for next year too, because that is a good time to get it in front of people is late August, early September, when you think that they're going to slow down. Yes, people are enrolling in school, and people who didn't buy in the summertime, maybe they're taking a break because their kids are in school or whatever, but statistically, October is very busy. So just keep that in mind. It's not time to slow down. It's time to lean in. So I wanted to talk about that with you today. I had a objection handling sheet I was going to bring up for you guys. Let me go pull that up really quickly here, and I will share my screen.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Here's the flyer that Brad can do for you. This is a very nice flyer that he made for me. So I wanted him to kind of explain what that is, and this is something that you can do as well and shoot out to your buyer clients who are like, oh, I don't know, I think the rates might be moving or still a little high. I'm not sure if I want to do anything about that. Now's a
That's
great
exactly
time.
it.
Brad,
It's
why
just
don't you
a
take it away?
way to counter those objections. And so the biggest one is rates too high. It's gone up. It's going to go up higher. And this is just a way to really kind of take that away from them. So essentially what it means is that we would do the loan, current market rate, obviously, whatever they're subject to. But then we as the lender are committing to when the rates drop, refinancing them anytime in the next 3 years. So essentially that's the date, the rate, you're not married to it. We will then lower it down with no cost to the client. So it really takes away any of their feelings other than the payment shock. I mean, obviously that piece of it for qualifying, but with other tools where, you structure the deal where the seller contributes concessions enough to do a 2-1 buy down, now that 8% rate will be a 6% rate for the first year, then a 7%, and then it goes up to the 8%. And with that, now it's something that's manageable, but then also buys them the time so that then we can refinance it with no cost to them.
Literally, it's no cost to them, like not even your fees being waived, but I know there's like
we're waiving our fees,
you have to pay.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously there's the regular refinance element to it, right? So if they have impounds, they're going to have a startup of the new impound account and then get refunded their other one, depending on the servicing, where that loan ends up. If it ends up in the same servicing, meaning it's still in our hands for servicing, we can then carry those impounds over. But if we already sold it to, say PennyMac, and then we're doing a loan, then we'll have to start up a new impound account. So but that's not really a cost. That's just a movement of money, almost like a shell game. Same goes to your point, with the interest charges. You can play the game and somebody can skip 2 months worth of payments, but they're going to have that interest charge as part of that. We're not going to absorb that part either. What we're absorbing is the lender fees. And escrow and title and so forth.
What can I really tell people? Can I tell them it's free to what's the terminology again? Free to what? Get a new loan in the future, refinance in the future?
Yeah, it's essentially, it's not going to cost them any fees. So it's going to be a free refinance. But they are still going to be on the hook for interest charges for the loan. Things of that nature. But as far as any of the hard fees, those will be taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to
Up to a certain threshold, obviously. I mean, if we get somebody that their FICO score dropped to 650 and they have 4 points in risk assessment, that's not on us because that's something that they did, not us. You with me? But for the average refinance where we're paying for escrow and title and appraisal and we're absorbing all that.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Hopefully y'all can see what this is. I just wanted to pull it up so you could see the script that I have for you. For people who want to wait. And it said holiday objection handlers, but honestly, this is any time where they're like, oh, I don't think right now is a good time. So, there are ways to handle that. And so I wanted to walk you through this. And this is the seller side. Buyer side looks very, very similar. But there's another program that we have that is a tool that gives you some funds that you can it's not really credit back, but we call it a rebate back to your client. And it can be buy side or sell side. So if they tell you, okay, look, we're going to wait. We're just not sure if now's the right time. You say, it's interesting about what you just said about waiting. You're the 7th person this week alone that has said that same thing to me. And can I tell you why that concerns me? And they'll say, sure. You say, well, if everyone is waiting until after Thanksgiving, what do you think that will do to the supply when everyone ends up listing around the same time, right? It's going to drive up demand, right? So I don't have to tell you, when supply goes up, with no increase in demand, the prices come down, right? So that could be a problem. And then my question is, would you rather sell now or when you have less competition? And more serious buyers would you rather prefer to wait, like most buyers would, or sellers? Let's see, I think I put this wrong. I'm tired. Sorry, people. So would you rather sell now when there's less competition and more serious buyers? Or would you prefer to wait like most others and compete with all the other listings at that time, right? So let's say you wait till January. Do you think the market's busier in November or January for a seller? That's a tough one. What do you guys think? Neither one of them speak. I'll tell
What
you
do you mean
what.
busy for them? Like busy for them in like holidays, or busy for them as in competition?
Yeah. So with a seller, if they don't want to wait right now, if they're saying, you know what, I don't want to list right now. I think I want to wait. I just want to take it off for the holidays. Do you ever hear that comment?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you take it off for the holidays, and everyone else is thinking the same way, then come January, how many other sellers are going to be on the market competing against you? Right? You're gonna have more competition if you wait. The buyers, same thing. It's interesting about waiting on the buy side. If the supply goes down, then there's increase in demand and the prices go up. We're going to see that as soon as the rates start to turn. So my question was, would you rather buy now when you have less competition and more serious sellers, or would you prefer to wait like most others to compete with all the active buyers that are going to be coming up when the rates start to turn back down, especially in the spring, right? That's going to happen. My take on that is it's a election year, and I think there's going to be some pressure on the Fed to start floating those rates down a little. Brad, do you have any thought on that? You think they're going to float it down at all? He's muted. Sorry, Brad, you're muted, my friend.
Sorry about that. I couldn't find my mute button. It's going to be dependent on the war or the possibility of war. Historically, war brings higher rates because then there's higher spending. But given where we are right now, if we go into a recession, then the Feds are going to have to cut rates. So it's really kind of half a dozen one, half a dozen the other. It's really kind of going to be dependent on timing. Very much like the interest rates having an impact in absorbing the possibility, depending on the areas, of Airbnbs coming in as an influx of inventory.
I've been reading about that too. I've been hearing a lot of people saying, dump the extra fat. You don't need the payment on it, get rid of it.
Right? I mean, let's be honest. I mean, if somebody bought an Airbnb and, it's not performing quite like it did, and with the fears of where that's going to go, their only option is to get a long-term rental. or, and with that long-term rental, they're going to definitely get less ROI on that. So,
Yeah.
they're going to be prone to take the advances or take their gains and sell it. And so in some areas, we're already starting to see those Airbnbs starting to come in. But right now, the inventory is not, so excessive that it's countering the supply or the demand, but it
Not
could.
yet. Yeah. Yeah. I was just talking to corporate about that. They wanted to know how the market was. And I'm like, you know what? I'm busy.
Yeah.
I'm still busy. Okay. So now we've talked about the objection and why they probably don't want to wait because there's going to be competition either direction. But here's
Well,
something
and I
else.
think on the piece of rates for everybody too is to keep
Yeah.
in mind that, one of the bigger things is to help somebody understand what they've been paying thus far and losing just through rent. People's rents in some areas have gone up, double digits, 10% year over year. And so where's that going to go in the future? Whereas if they buy now, even with rates the way they are, even with the market where it is, they're at least going to stop the bleeding and they will eventually get ahead. And that's where wealth is developed. And they're also going to have the tax write-offs accordingly as well, where they don't really have any right now. So, when you really walk them through and help them understand those pieces, it helps them to understand that there is some light at the end of the tunnel and it's not just waiting, because then when you compile that with exactly what you're talking about, the pent up demand, that higher demand is going to cause bidding wars, and then they're going to get pushed out again if they already tried to get in some, couple within the last few years. So, it's really asking the questions and diving into what their pain point is. What is it that's driving them to want to buy?
Yeah, because if they're looking, that they're not just doing that because they have nothing better to do on a weekend, right? They are
Mm-hmm.
looking for a reason. They want to buy. So here's a way that you can help convert them. Why don't you, after you've talked to them about the risks of not taking action now, then you could ask them, may I share some buyer assistance programs or seller assistance programs that I can offer that can put cash towards your closing costs or rate buy down? Would that be helpful for you? Right? So the answer is great, cool. We have this cool date the rate program, but it's only good through the end of the year. Right, Brad?
That's it.
It's only good till the end of the year. So people that are looking now that are like, I don't know if I should, I really kind of want to, but I just not sure I'm quite there. Hey, you know what? We have this guarantee. It's a 3-year rate guarantee. You have to, I think it's 7 months they have to keep their loan, right? And then they can refinance if their
Yeah.
rate comes down.
Yeah, it's between 6 and 8 months, depending on servicing time period. Really, what we're looking for is we're looking for 6 made payments to
Right.
the bank.
Yeah. So still in good standing, and they can take refinance into a lower rate up to 3 years from the date of their purchase. So that kind of takes some of that risk away. The second thing is the Hometown Heroes program, and this is for buyers and sellers. So this is something that you could talk to them about on either side, right? And under this program, the clients receive a contribution. My clients receive a contribution from my commission towards a rate buy down and closing costs. So you as my client receive a rebate of 20% of my commission to you, and additionally, 5% of my commission goes to help heroes in our community. Isn't that great? Right? Okay, well, who are the heroes? Almost everybody, honestly. I was like, I think both of the other people.
It's pretty broad. It's really an amazing
Qualify.
program
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. So veterans, military, right? First responders, healthcare educators, nonprofits, which I didn't know about. I forgot that part. And then government employees. So federal, state, city, county, anybody. So what's in it then for the hero?
And to add to that too, just so everybody understands, it also follows suit with the employees of. So even as a healthcare provider, if it's a janitor in the hospital or if it's a janitor in the school district, those count as well.
Thank you. So it is very, very broad.
Yep.
Okay, so what's in it for the hero? This came straight off of our Fathom wiki, by the way, in case you're wondering. Hometown Heroes provides real financial savings to heroes looking to buy or sell. So what does that tell you? So now even there's a benefit on the seller side. So 20% rebate, as I was saying, and then up to a credit from Hometown Heroes certified lender, which is our friend Brad at Encompass Lending, right? So if you're looking at the loans right there, most people, their loan is going to be greater than $250,000. So they'll get a lender credit, which it's pretty close to paying their title insurance for most people. So there's some funds there that's coming from both sides, from the lender who's working with you and also from the realtor who's working with you. So does that sound good to you? Would that be helpful? And then can I send you some information and on how to get started? Because there is a training that you have to go through to get the Hometown Heroes qualification, I believe. I think there is a sign up they do, they opt in, they agree to go through a training session, if you want to call it that, just to explain how the program works, and then they are able to take advantage of that. So 2 questions I would ask them. Can I send you information on how to get started? And do you know anyone else who might benefit from my buyer and seller programs? Why not just throw that out there too while you're at it, right? Because they're talking to people and they're going to go, what? I didn't know about that. I know somebody else who could also take advantage of that, right? So that's why I wanted to just share those 2 things with you and kind of go over that with Brad. I'll send you this out. And that's why I was asking Brad if there's any kind of like social media graphic or some like one page PDF or something that we can push out to the.
Yeah, I requested one be made. They didn't have, we have social media posts, but not directly connected to the program. So they're actually doing one with the flyer that then I can post and share with you.
Okay. Do you feel like that's helpful, everyone? Is that a good way to kind of hit those objections and maybe offer some way to help convert them?
More than anything, just give it a talking point, especially
Yeah.
the Hometown Heroes. If you guys haven't gotten certified yet, you definitely want to do that. And Krista and I are working on, having a discussion on that and so forth, come to you guys. But more so, you can take a past client of yours, let's say they were a fireman, and, even though, instead of calling them up as a past client, just saying, hey, how are you doing? You want to sell? And of course, everybody's like, no, why would I?
No.
Yeah. So it really kind of shuts you down before you even get started. But when you have something like this, now you're like, hey, I need your help. We got this amazing program. So, who's around you that can benefit from this, from
Yeah.
buying their next home or their first home, and so now people feel good about helping and they'll want to engage in that conversation. So it really gives you something to talk about.
Yeah. And that's really key because you're not necessarily asking them to take action. You're just saying, who can we help?
Yep.
And they're going to want to be that hero, right? So they're going to want to, they'll really turn their brain on that one because now they have a chance to be helpful for someone else and it doesn't cost them anything.
Yeah, and just so you guys know too, on the Hometown Heroes, there was a lot of problems in past because they did have it open to outside realty companies and lenders. And what they found was, especially on the lending side, that the lenders were increasing margins to cover the credit that they were giving. So, that's part of why it's proprietary to Encompass Lending only, is because we've never done that. And so we've proven ourselves. And so in doing so, in continual audits, we continue to prove that that's not the case. So, that's really a good selling point for you, because that's the first thought for some people that have been through something like that, or, a little more savvy, like, well, yeah, you always, of course you can give it. You're just going to increase it. And it's like, no, we don't.
Yeah.
So, and same goes on the realty side as well.
Yeah. And yes, you're giving a little bit of a referral, if you want to call it that, but it's directly to your client's benefit. It's not like you're paying another agent for that, right? And they're going to want to share that because that's a great deal for them. You're helping them out getting into their home, and they're going to want to share that with other people. On the other side of that conversation would be, do you already know people that are in those industries, and could you do a lunch and learn maybe with some of those people, where you're touching more than one person at a time? It may be that you're going to have a conversation with the one person first and say, hey, do you think it would be beneficial if I came and did a lunch and learn at your office?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now you've just opened up a whole pool of potential clients, and they're going to tell people. Because what we found, and Brad can probably tell you this too, going through the Hometown Heroes training, once you help one person, they're going to start telling people, and then it's going to kind of snowball a little bit, and you're going to get a lot more referral business out of that than you would from most clients, right? So
Definitely.
I just want you
Yeah.
to be aware of that. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't be shy. If you've got a client that's law enforcement or fire, or even if they're just working in the school district, ask for the intro to the principal. It's amazing, who you can get in contact with. But by doing that lunch and learn, or after hours, just make sure to be consistent with it. Just don't do it once. Plan on, when you're having your dialogue with them, make sure that you plan to do this on a biweekly or a monthly basis, because the more you do it, the more they'll talk, and then the more they'll show up. But if you just do it once or twice, it's like farming. You won't get as much out of it. You got to be consistent and resilient.
Yeah, I think it's like 12 to 15 touches before a consumer's like, oh, yeah, okay. Then there's name recognition. It doesn't happen overnight. That's why I tell people, right? Be the banana or be the McDonald's.
Yep.
Either one of those stories works in this case. But you have to be consistent so that you're frequently top of mind for them for whatever reason, that they remember who you are. Okay, so that's my 2 cents. Does anybody else have another objection? Go ahead, Mark.
He's like, I often get the objection of anybody who remembers 2012. It basically is like they feel like home prices must go down because they're so much higher than they were back then. I mean, literally, I just helped a client buy a condo that was 4 times more expensive than the sale price that took place in 2012. So people just feel like, including myself, just like, is it possible that we're at the top of the market and prices have to go down considering how much they've grown so quickly?
Anything's possible, but here's what I would say to it is one thing that most people don't understand, and we weren't even really tracking it well enough at the time, which is part of why 2008 happened. But it would be babies being born. So back in 2008, we all know they were building more homes than there were people buying, which was why they got stuck with so much inventory, right? But what was causing it? It was a false demand because of the loan programs that were offered at that time, right? Fog and Mirror, you got a loan. But what nobody was looking at is that the average home buyer, age roughly is about 34 years old. So if we went back from 2008, 34 years, that went to record low number of babies being born. So we didn't have the expansion of households at that time. Then you compile '08 collapse, heading into 2010, it was a consolidation of those housings, which then also caused 2012, it took a while to catch up. But now you take that and you go backwards in that same time period, it's almost the level of baby boomers. And so with that being said, we have a huge expansion of household, and that's why we don't have enough housing. That's why rent's still strong. So as long as rent's still strong, as we all know, that's a great indicator. That's how you can explain it to them to go. And that's why we're not really going to have a housing collapse. We're going to have maybe a correction depending on the areas, things we talked about earlier, Airbnb, VRBO, overinflated from iBuying, depending on the area. But for a steady area, we're not really going to see, we might see a flattening or we might see a reduction to the overinflation of offers, but it's not necessarily a price correction.
Yeah.
What do we tell?
Let me jump in for a second too. I went through that market, and I know some of you know this. I was in loss mitigation for a long time, for about 2-3 years, and I worked with about 250 agents in California. And every day we would go to someone's house and say, "Let's take a look at your numbers. Can we do a mod, or do we need to list your house?" And what that came from, in my opinion, was, like as Brad said, the loans were crazy. 2005, 6, 7, 8, where there were a lot of people getting into real estate investing, and they were going in and buying these houses with a huge amount of leverage, 5% down, throw a renter in it, go buy another one, right, Brad? And
Yeah.
like Florida, Arizona, those were very, very heavily, Texas too. Some parts of California, like Stockton area, that was one of the hardest hit, was San Joaquin County.
Yep.
In the country. And it was because there were a lot of people that were speculating in real estate because of the loans that were available at the time, right? Well, what happened was the economy started to change, right? And people were losing their jobs. And so no, they weren't out buying houses. And all of a sudden they had all these people that were over leveraged, and they were foreclosing because they couldn't keep up, right? The renters weren't there. And what happened then was these institutional investors came in, like BlackRock and some other ones, where they came in and just bought up a boatload of these properties that were new construction, that had just been year or two old, whatever, these new communities that had sprouted up. And you and I, the single family person buyer, was not the one buying those houses. Traditionally, that's who was buying these houses, right? But the institutional investors came in and they bought a lot of that. They just gobbled those up. And so that means that you and I, that would have bought that house in 2010, 12, whatever, we aren't the ones that are going to sell it in the average of 7 years, right? 2019, 2020, whatever you want to call that. We aren't the ones holding those anymore. Those houses aren't coming back on the market, right? So now there's this housing crunch because those houses aren't coming back on the market. The people that are living in those are investors that are renting them out, right? So now you've still got more people looking for houses because they didn't buy, they rented, right? And the houses are owned by investors that aren't selling. So where are these people going to go? Where are they going to buy? That's what we're running into. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's my 2 cents on that.
I do have
Yeah,
another
and
question.
yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
What do we tell people who remember those days that are now in their 30s, first time home buyers? They're just kind of bitter about the missed opportunity they had, and they don't want to pay 4 times more what they could have had right after they graduated out of college, for example.
You know, I don't think you're going to see a depreciation that's going to be significant. I just don't see it because
No.
there's so much demand. There isn't, right? And unfortunately, the area that we live in is, you know, down the road from the Bay Area where prices went crazy. I came from Santa Clara County. And there's no way I could afford anything that I ever lived in over there, right? It happens, and this is happening all over the country because the Californians and the people that are having these higher income jobs are moving out and pushing that up in other states like in Idaho and Utah and Colorado and Arizona, right? They're all just really feeling it. So I feel for these people. I do. Um, it's getting to the point where they're having to look at the bank of mom and dad, right? Or grandma and grandpa, instead of having a, you know, one person on the loan, there's maybe three or four. And that's what's happening. So
Yeah, and to
that's
add
what
to
I'm
that
thinking.
too,
Yeah.
you know, to Chris's point, you know, the corporatization of housing that's occurred now since that fallout is also the same stability that we're also referring to as well, because there is still a lot of properties held by those companies and by investors alike accordingly. So now that it's corporatized, unfortunately, it's, you know, going to cause some stability because you could take just two iBuyers, right? You can take Open Door and Redfin, and they can outcompete each other, and a regular consumer is going to lose that war no matter what. But really, what's it doing? It's just increasing that value falsely, you know. And we've seen it happen in certain areas. Um, you know, so as far as what to tell them, say it's still better to get in than not, you know, because if they don't get in now, right? I mean, even go back to the collapse of '08, which single-handedly was probably the largest real estate, you know, drop in history. And yet now we're back up above that. So think of that one. I mean, people walked away from their homes and dealt with all this stuff, but if they had just stayed in it, assuming they didn't get into a bad loan, um, they would have had, I don't know, 15 years of equity built regardless. And it's now back above where it was when it collapsed.
Yeah, because the real estate cycle is about 7 years generally,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
So up and down it goes, and there isn't. I mean, I look at it this way. People ask me, you know, when's the best time to buy? And I say yesterday. The next best time is today, because it's not going to go back down much. If it goes down, it's going to
Yeah.
do this, and then it's going to rise some
You
more.
might see 10%, 15%, depending on the area. But as a whole, yeah, we're not going to see a drop or a collapse like we did before.
No, and it's hyper local. You can't look at the country as a whole and say, oh, prices are falling. Well, it depends on where you are,
Yep.
right? It really depends on where you are. Where we are, there is some new construction, which is great. But did you know that we also have entire communities that are built out as rentals right now?
Yeah. And they're working to continue that.
Yeah,
You know, they're looking to completely trash the general neighborhood and just make it purely all about rentals.
yeah. So, you know, keep that in the back of your mind. It's always a good time to buy, honestly. And I ask people, okay, well, what if you had held on to every property that you ever bought? What would your net worth be right now?
Oh
I
yeah.
just kind of go, dang it. If I'd have kept my Bay Area real estate, life would be good.
Hmm.
But it floats our way, right? I mean, houses now in our area are almost $1 million as our median. It's crazy, but that's what
Prices
it is.
just seem so crazy. I mean, those that own homes, they're okay with what's happened because they benefited from it.
I don't
But for
No, we
all the
weren't
people,
necessarily okay with it, but I understand the plight of the buyer. That's why I'm saying these programs that we have are really good. Um, and again, the rate is great because you've got a 3-year protection on if those rates do drop, you've already got your house in there, you've bought that property, and as it appreciates, as the rates come down, those houses are going to go up in value because people are going to increase again. The demand is going to go up. So it's better to get in now.
or have
Buy
young
the
people
prettiest
try to
house
change
in
the
the renters
laws.
community. No, I mean it's an investment, right? It's an investment, but you do have to have a roof over your head. So I would rather have a roof over my head that I own, even if it's a small one. You got to start somewhere.
That's it.
Uh, yeah, you got, as you said, you got to start somewhere, because what I noticed in my area, because I'm up in Lake County.
Uh-huh.
We used to live down in Santa Rosa. It's like about 45 minutes away. And up in Lake County, it's more people are moving up from Santa Rosa. So we got people, since the pandemic, we got people moving from like San Francisco down the Bay Area, coming to Santa Rosa, then people moving from Santa Rosa coming to Lake County, because it's like a bit more affordable there.
Yep.
And it's like, I mean, it's pretty booming. We moved up here like 6 years ago, and both of my sister-in-law moved up. The last one moved up recently, like about 2 months ago. So it's moving. It's like it's like stages moving up
Yeah.
south.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look at Yolo County, right? Like that used to be like nowhere land. Now it's booming. Marysville, Yuba City up in there. Yeah. Crazy. Yo, Placer County for sure. Yeah, I mean, I moved to Rockland here. There were 19,000 people when I moved here in 1992. And now there's about 74,000 people here. And there was actually two lights in the entire town when I moved here, two street lights. People are like, why'd you move way out to Rockland? It's out in the middle of nowhere. Now you look at it and you're like, if I only coulda, shoulda, right? And so it's really good if you look at the path of progress and buy in front of it, you're in really good shape. That's how a lot of land speculators make their money.
Yeah, I think we move a good time, because we've gained so much equity in our home. Now
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it's crazy. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to convince people to move. I convinced both my sister-in-law to move, and they did. Trying to get my mom and dad-in-law to move soon too.
Yep. That's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like, when's the best time to buy? Yesterday. Next best time is today. Just you have to be smart about it. You got to buy what you can afford. You can't over leverage yourself, and that's where people got in trouble.
It's become the
Okay.
retirement plan for people that have not saved.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest wealth builders there is, right? Is real estate. You don't
Yeah, and
always
it
need to
depends on
be.
your area too. I mean, here in
Yeah.
California, we get peaks and valleys. So, that same very thing, you can have somebody that never saves a dollar in other than, small 401k, and they'll still be okay if they really focus on getting that home paid off.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you take that same person and put them into another part of the country, Illinois or wherever, and that's not necessarily the case, but they don't run the same peaks and valleys and the levels of appreciation that we do either.
Right.
How different would things would be if people that did not own homes voted to change laws so that investors could not purchase a whole bunch of these homes and rent them out? But literally, what if like you could only rent out a few homes? So all the supply would suddenly change dramatically. Home values would.
Yeah, and that's a valid point. I mean, there's a lot of they're always constantly changing, or trying to change that and do it for that reason, because it's going to benefit the big guys for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I look at it. There's opportunity everywhere. Like I said, buy the ugliest house in the nicest neighborhood that you can afford, and start with that. Little sweat equity is a good thing. So anyway, I appreciate you guys taking the time today. I hope that was helpful. I'll send out that Word doc that I have for you, and we'll work on getting some social media assets for you to push out too. But like I said, it's more about, and what Brad said, contact people you already know, people that aren't necessarily looking to buy or sell, but they might know people who are. and you're a great resource for them. The stuff that we have that's available is amazing. So yeah, if you thank you. Okay, so if you go to Fathom Wiki and you go to Homes for Heroes and just type that in the search bar right there, you will get the information on how to sign up for that training. So I highly recommend you do that if you have not done that already. And Hometown for Heroes is also migrating into IntelliAgent under the marketing tab.
Yep.
So that'll be cool. Yeah,
And one other piece too, for those that have been around longer, it used to be where you would be charged $150 or something like that to do the training for Hometown Heroes, but that now has been changed to where it's free.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great program. And like I said, there's benefits for buyers and sellers, and then with Encompass also the 3-year date the rate. It's a really good package to put in front of somebody who's like, I really wish I could. See if they can, or they might know people. So I appreciate you guys taking the time. Hopefully you put your name and your contact information in the chat. If not, we'll see you here next Monday. We can try it again. You can network offline. But I appreciate that. I appreciate the conversation today and sharing your comments as well. And I hope you all have a great week and see you next time.
It's been good seeing you guys.
All right. Bye-bye.